The village of Hollow Creek was shrouded in an eternal twilight. A thick fog, cold and damp, clung to everything. It was as though the sun itself was afraid to touch the village, leaving it to its secrets and shadows. The villagers, their faces etched with a weary acceptance, rarely spoke of the grand manor on the hill. The manor, once a beacon of life, now stood empty. It was a decaying testament to a tragedy long past. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out over the village. The manor was more than just an abandoned house. It was a spectre, a haunting reminder of a past the villagers wished to forget. The wind howled through the eaves, sounding like a mournful cry. The overgrown garden, once a riot of colour, was now a tangled mess of thorns and weeds. Even the birds avoided the manor, their cheerful songs replaced by an unsettling silence. The old folks of Hollow Creek still whispered the manor's tragic tale. They spoke of a wealthy family, the Blackwoods, who had met a grim end within its walls. The patriarch, driven mad by grief over the loss of his wife, had taken the lives of his children before ending his own. The villagers believed their souls remained, forever trapped within the manor. The Blackwood tragedy had cast a long shadow over Hollow Creek. Some villagers claimed to see flickering lights in the manor's windows at night. Others spoke of disembodied voices carried on the wind. The manor was a place of fear, avoided by all who valued their sanity. Sami, a young man with a thirst for adventure and a disdain for superstition, scoffed at the village's tales. He refused to believe the whispers of ghosts and hauntings. To him, the Blackwood Manor was nothing more than an old house with a tragic past. It was a mystery to solve, not a place to fear. One cool autumn evening, as the fog rolled in like a ghostly tide, Sami made a wager with the villagers. He would spend the night alone in the Blackwood Manor. He would prove once and for all that the whispers were nothing more than superstitious nonsense. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and his skepticism, Sami stepped across the threshold and into the darkness. The air inside the manor was heavy and still. Dust motes danced in the pale beam of Sami's flashlight. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of his own breathing. He ran his hand along a cobweb-covered wall, the plaster cold and damp beneath his fingers. The scent of decay hung heavy in the air. Despite himself, Sami felt a shiver run down his spine. The shadows seemed deeper here, the silence more profound. He climbed the grand staircase, each creaking step echoing in the stillness. The portraits lining the walls, their eyes following his every move, seemed to watch him with a mixture of sadness and accusation. As Sami explored the manor, he became aware of a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The air grew colder, sending goosebumps erupting on his arms. A soft whisper seemed to emanate from the walls, barely audible but undeniably present. It was a sound without a source, a murmur that sent chills down his spine. He paused, listening intently. The whisper came again, a little louder this time. It sounded like a name spoken with a mournful sigh. He couldn't quite make it out, but the sound sent a prickle of fear through him. He was no longer alone in the Blackwood Manor. The whispers grew louder as Sami ventured deeper into the manor. They seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, a chorus of disembodied voices. They spoke of sorrow, of loss, of a pain that echoed through the ages. They swirled around him, chilling him to the bone. The temperature plummeted, the air growing heavy with unseen menace. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end. He felt a presence, cold and ethereal, brush past him. Fear, primal and consuming, tightened its grip on his chest. His skepticism crumbled. The Blackwood Manor was indeed haunted. Sami stumbled back, his heart pounding in his chest. He found himself in a dusty old nursery. A rocking horse stood frozen in mid-motion. A child's doll lay discarded on the floor, its porcelain face cracked and vacant. And then he saw it. In the ornate, full-length mirror that took up most of one wall, a face appeared. It wasn't his own. It was a woman's face, pale and drawn, with eyes that burned with a cold, otherworldly fire. Her lips moved, forming words he couldn't hear. Terror, raw and consuming, flooded through him. He turned to flee, but the face in the mirror was gone. The whispers followed Sami as he ran through the darkened halls of the manor. He had to escape to get out of this place of shadows and whispers, but the manor seemed determined to keep him prisoner. Doors slammed shut before he could reach them. The floorboards seemed to shift beneath his feet. He burst out of the front door and into the cool night air. He didn't stop running until he reached the safety of the village. He never returned to the Blackwood Manor. The memory of that night forever seared into his mind. He had gone into the manor a skeptic. He had emerged a believer, forever marked by the horrors he had witnessed. The next morning, the villagers found the manor's front door wide open. Sami was gone. They searched for him, but he had vanished without a trace. The only clue was his flashlight lying on the nursery floor. It was open, its beam pointed at the ornate full-length mirror, the mirror that now reflected nothing but the empty room and the villagers' horrified faces. The legend of the Blackwood Manor continued. The whispers persisted, a chilling reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. And Sami's disappearance became another chapter in the manor's dark history, a chilling tale whispered around the hearths of Hollow Creek on cold, foggy nights. He had sought to debunk a legend. Instead, he had become a part of it,